on behalf of women and law in Southern Africa, welcome you all to this important academic symposium on gender and extractives. The main objective of this forum is to advocate for a gender-responsive legal and policy framework. Today, we are going to launch a publication. It's putting women at the center of extractives. It's a compendium on gender and extractives.
Right now, the extractives in Zimbabwe contributes 11% when you read the Transitional Stabilization Program, which is really a major contributor. But when you look at women's participation and opportunities to benefit from the sector, women are really at the periphery. You'll find that whilst the economy is benefiting in terms of taxes and other things from the sector, but women are disproportionately affected by the negative impacts of extraction. Where are women placed, and how can we ensure that women are not at the periphery of the economy and they also enjoy better benefits?
In terms of the literature that we have seen, in this regard, I think WILSA did a very good thing that they came up with something, that is trying to combine all this fragmented literature. We are not going to be apologetic in terms of using, a feminist approach in our analysis. In terms of the state of gender in the mining sector, we acknowledge it is playing a very important role. We have heard about, mega deals on television. But what is it in the mega deals and what is it for women within these mining mega deals? We don't know. And research is also starting to emerge, showing that, women are also applying for mining licenses, seeking to invest in mining projects, at a relatively larger scale in diamond mining, cutting and polishing. Yes, we acknowledge the different, progressive tendencies that are there. But when it comes to women and in terms of feminist analysis, the sector has been reconstructed so that it can accommodate women in the manner that, is very transformative in terms of the material realities of women.
In as much as we are trying to advocate for our rights and our visibility, it's also important that we also move the current agenda by tapping the opportunities that are currently available as women. I'll give an example of training which one can get at the School of Mines, whereby there's actually a specific course for women in mining. There's also the Women Empowerment Bank, whereby loans can be obtained if you really want to pursue the business. The opportunities are there.
So what we did is we looked at why did we look at local enterprise development strategies. I think this is clear in terms of that we need to ensure that the people where the minerals are being derived benefit from what is coming from. We need to uplift our communities and think this is what is there. We're talking of the Africa Mining Vision. What does it talk about beneficiation? We're talking of the EITI. How does it go to talk about gender? Those are some of the instruments that we're talking about so that we address this. But more importantly, where the resources are being derived, people actually uplift themselves. And I think we have a number of local development strategies that are there. So in terms of the legal instruments, there is need to ensure that there's local employment, ensuring that at least 50% of the people who are employed in a particular area are directly residents of that particular community. And then the institutional constraints. And I think this is something which is there. When NIB was even still in existence and still really functioning, we did not see what it actually achieved because of lack of finances. When you go there, they'll tell you we don't even have a budget that was supposed to actually implement, and then you have to actually work in partnership with them. And I think the financial constraints are still being faced right now, and I think the austerity measures are also coming into effect as this is now being merged.
As a researcher, my thrust was also to listen to what they were saying, as well as recording and understanding their descriptions and narratives. And the assumption there was the women need to be visibilized. When you look at literature, we notice that women's contributions remain largely invisible. And this creates barriers to their full participation as well as their visibility. I
was able to realize that these women were actually problem solvers, and they were quite resilient in that they were able to penetrate an area which is male-dominated. The study concluded that it was an empowering exercise for the 10 women because they had to draw, they had to write on their positioning and how they are positioned. So these women are quite aware of some of the dangers that they expose themselves to in the use of mercury in concentrating the gold. Sometimes we do not represent them well when we speak on their behalf.
Do we have any who is a Korokoza here? Who is speaking for them? Have you been there, Mugomba? Do you think you understand that is ASM as she does? As a woman, there she is. She's working with, that is mercury. She's using bare hands. We are here, we are warm, we are comfortable, but is it the reality that we are trying to express? Can we do it better than them? My challenge to you organizers, let's have just a handful who have the realities of what it is to be a woman in artisanal and small-scale mining. Can we say 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the line, what these ladies are doing is still safe, is still comfortable and okay for our children and those who follow after us? Ecofeminism is saying there are various forms of ecofeminism, it's fine, but the underlying factor is there is patriarchy and capitalism. They work hand in hand to oppress women in various forms. When we talk about gendered risk, fine. Gender takes men and women, it's correct. But when you say it's gendered, we are saying women suffer more. So at the end of the day, women are prostitutes. People were arguing, I'm not a lawyer, people are arguing about the law. Do we have it in black and white? Speaking, and what next? We have a woman's bank, we have women's laws, we have women's what, we have that. I know she's even there.
My father, when he left his job some time back, when I was still a child, he joined the mining sector. He hadn't registered his mine at the time. He was still in Makorokoza. And every time when he go and do his mining and his gold, he will come back with this little gold that he has. The next thing we know, we are raided in the house.
When we did our research, to interview our kids who are mining issues, just like the previous presenter pointed out, one not deal directly in mercury. We know it's not a safe chemical to be dealing with, and we also noted kuti kazhinji vanenge vaine vana, my babies kumsana. Vamwe vacho vanenge vachitotamba madhaka imomo muri kukorokozwa. Capital. Pambotaurwa pano kuti there's a women's bank, but vazhinji avatozivi kuti what is required of me. Vamwe vacho havatorina zvitupa to actually go and open a bank account. Sometimes also the collateral that is expected of them. I think the last time Andaka inquire, it was 5%. Vamwe vakadzi avatovhumidzwa kusvika padhuze nemine because of cultural beliefs. Mambo gold not going to disappear.
When I was a child, I always wanted to find a way on how I was going to help the other women out there. I wished I was going to be a voice, and today I hope my voice is going to be heard by someone.
So we see that capitalism, when it came, it was patriarchal in nature, and that alone, it economically marginalized women. But where is the problem? When we have the laws that promote gender equality in terms of access, control, and ownership of resources, we have that, maybe I can call it the NATO syndrome. What I'm referring to is the no action, it's no action, talk only. We have good pieces of legislation that are in place, But when it comes to the implementation part, nothing is going on. Why is it like that? Should we have another Chimurenga, maybe to address the imbalance that is happening now? Because we are saying that land is in the hands of the ownership rights, they're in the hands of the minority, because the majority of women, they don't have ownership rights. There is need to develop strategies to better integrate local artisanal small-scale mining activities, particularly those involving women, into formal systems.
We've talked about issues regarding to policy implementation, policy everything. So what are the results of women not having access to shares, mining rights in these areas that we're talking about? The result is adolescent commercial sex work in mining communities. It's a reality that people are ignoring. Let me not extend to say government must provide information in terms of adolescent commercial sex work. So government, let me use the word, is sitting on information that is needed for development. So you're a father, you are taking $1, giving to someone's child, paying for sex for someone's child who is 14, who is 12. So who do you want to change the world? It's us, not government. In terms of this vulnerability, they now lack comprehensive sexual education. No one tried to teach a young child about reproductive health. These are the factors that are driving adolescents to commercial sex work.
WILSA is really striving to ensure that the law works for women and is gender responsive in the mining sector. At the moment, our country is still grappling in terms of developing a local content policy, which can be another pathway that could improve women's participation in the sector. As a way forward, WILSA will continuously engage with Parliament, particularly the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee on Mining and Mining Development. It is very critical that we ensure that some of the findings coming out of this publication are actually integrated into the law reform processes.
This symposium is so good because it has given us a platform to discuss the pertinent issues that are affecting women within the mining sector. We have seen that there's a lot of inconsistency in terms of the mining sector policies. And right now, through what we've also looked at, looking at the legal policy framework of the legal constraints that are hampering women's participation in the mining sector value chain. And so we seek to see that women participate through the whole sector value chain in terms of how they also get jobs, how they also supply non-essential and non-technical facilities so that they can also have a role to play in the mining sector value chain.
So here I am thinking we have got a demographic, we've got women who are participating in this economic subsector. We have patriarchal, structural, and many other barriers. Yeah? And FADZAI spoke a bit earlier on even about unpaid work that is not accounted for. Yeah? Yet they are meaningful contributors to a subsector which actually subsumes even the formal sectors. Do you understand where I'm coming from in terms of the contradictions?
Yes.
Yeah? Because on one end, we need to be able to come to a place where we flag the importance of the subsector, artisanal mining, for instance. I can assure you, Dr. Matope, if you had brought one of the women here, she was going to begin by saying Jim Korokosa.
Yes.
Yeah? So we have these tags and these names to people who are contributing 5% of the gold output.
Women are going into the EI simple as a way of alleviating their poverty. For the women, the practical gender needs are those that are addressed by Maslow. Maslow talks about food. Maslow talks about taking care of those things that are immediate to the family. There is an issue of conscientization. On the ground, with the people in the rural areas, in the grassroots that we went to, they are not even knowledgeable. They are not aware of what is really obtaining or what is really happening pertaining to facilities that can make them have access to things that can help them in their day-to-day activities in the mines. When I linked it to the longest perspective, yes, all these stakeholders are doing a splendid job, but this has not been taken to the people concerned.
When you hear the word government, for example, government is Congo, but government is you. When you don't know that you have a right, it is okay. But when you know that you have a right, but you cannot access it, it becomes more frustrating. So the issue of legal rights is very important, and so human rights need to be made justiciable through constitution, laws, and policies. This was said by one of some of the speakers that we need to really strengthen the building power within, build consciousness among the women themselves. That, you know what, I have these rights. My constitution gives me all these rights. And how do those rights relate to the needs that I have? And then also to look at policy analysis. To also look at what are the alternative narratives that we should be going with. And then to use that in advocacy, in standing on behalf of those that don't have power.
One of the things that we have realized of all the people who were attending, even my presentation, we lamented the absence of the real people who are in the activity. The Makorokoza women, those who do the Serengeti, those who have the experience of being in the pit, those women who see men being cut into pieces, who also see their resources or their equipment being taken by force. So we are saying, yes, we did this organization, we did this symposium, but what about these women? The voice of those, we call it the situatedness of knowledge, the experiences that these women go through. They are not captured because they are not there.